What's up everyone, back in the shop again. Still working on a re-gear, but today we're going to focus on changing out the ball joints. Again, this is a 2006 LJ. Got to get the ball joints out of here. One of the things you want to make sure you have is a really good ball joint press. You can get them from, I got mine from OTC. Harbor Freight ones tend to bend pretty easily. OTC's made in the USA. You can rent them from your local auto parts store. That's fine. Make sure you get the four-wheel drive adapter. If you'll notice, here's a straight adapter and it's even all the way across. This four-wheel drive adapter has a slight bevel to it, which is good for our inner C's on our TJ axles. So if you're gonna do this, I cannot stress enough, make sure you get yourself a good ball joint press. That'll make your life a lot easier. First thing we gotta do though is get all the brakes, rotors, and axle shafts out. So let's get that done. To get your tie rod off, I've shown this trick in the past too. You need to bust that nut loose. It's a 3/4 inch nut. You don't need a ball joint separator or anything like that. Take this nut, you're gonna unscrew it all the way up to the top. Right about there, just so there's enough thread engagement, the tie rod's not gonna fall. If you look at the side of the knuckle here, you got a flat spot, or you can even hit right on the end. You do not want to hit your castle nut and bend that over, but you want to pop it right here, and that's going to cause this thing to drop. It may take a few whacks to get there though. Just like that, it'll fall down, the nut catches it, and then you just lift it up a little bit, loosen the nut the rest of the way, hang it up out of the way. Just be careful, don't hit that castellated nut and bend your tie rod end over. To get the knuckle off, it's a simple 1.1 nut on the bottom. You have a 7/8 on the top. Those are only torqued, I think, like 55 foot-pounds, so they're not too difficult to break off at all. The top one, leave it on just a couple threads, kind of like the tie rod trick. This one comes right off just like that. And the key to getting the knuckles off, there's a little flat spot up here, and you're just gonna bang on it like this. And eventually drops just like that. Raise it up a little bit, undo the rest of that nut. Your knuckle comes right off. Before I remove these ball joints, I want to talk about replacement ball joints and what to get. I am an absolutely big fan of Spicer ball joints. For the TJ LJ series, they're going to be the 706944X. That's what you want for these. Be very wary if you're going to go to aftermarket ball joints such as Terraflex, the ones that have the knurled ends on there. Once you put those in there, you're not going to be able to go back to any other type of ball joint. They're supposed to be rebuildable. I don't know that I want to spend that kind of money on that. Spicer is just awesome for what we need. So if you come in here and take a little closer look, you're going to see what you get with the package. You get an upper ball joint, you get a lower ball joint, and then you get a bag full of garbage here. They add this in here. This is kind of a universal ball joint kit for many applications. This piece here, you don't need, you can toss it. It comes with new cotter pins, so the cotter pins you pulled out of your old stuff, you can toss all that. And when you look at Spicer ball joints, they are gonna have laser engraved etching on top there that identifies these ball joints. There are a lot, and I'm not kidding you, there's a lot of fake stuff on Amazon. I ordered Spicer ball joints from a guy on Amazon, and it showed the original box. It showed everything. They came in a plain white box, and then this, it had no markings. You tell the ball joints were absolutely garbage. So I sent them back and went ahead and bought Spicer. So make sure you get good quality Spicer ball joints. You'll be good to go. Now that we have the knuckle off, it's time to get the ball joints out. If you remember in my OTC ball joint kit, there's a whole bunch of different adapters in there, and it's made to be used on several different vehicles. So on this Jeep here, to get these out, these are the adapters that I use. One thing you need to notice is up top, the upper ball joint goes out through the top, the lower ball joint goes out through the bottom. So I have to take the upper out first, because when I put this in there to press out the bottom, it comes up through that hole. So for the upper, I use a combination of an open thing like this, and there's different adapters you can use. This is just what works for me. I set that up on top, and then on the bottom side, this fits right into this adapter here, or onto the C-clamp. This goes up. And you're going to tighten this down till it gets snug in there. And then the natural way for this clamp to go is the way you're tightening. So I just get it pressed up against something right there right away anyway. Now that that's set, we could push up and through. One thing to note, you can remove these rubber cups there. That's fine. These peel right off. And I kind of encourage that, even though I didn't do it on this one, just I'm showing you how to do it. You could wipe all that grease off there and you're not getting your ball joint set all filthy. And then all you have to do now is start tightening up the clamp and the ball joint will start pressing out. And sometimes it's tough to pull on that, so you have to get yourself a little cheater bar. Around this other side. And you'll hear it pop, and that's when you know it's going to start moving. You'll know when it's all the way out because it gets really easy. Just like that, comes right apart. So now I'm going to unscrew this, get it off of there. This comes off here, this comes off of here. Ball joint comes up and out, my adapter comes out, there's that ring. That ball joint's out, it's that easy. So now that we have the upper ball joint out, now I'm going to take another adapter here. This one fits over the ball joint, and that's one thing you want to make sure you pay attention to. There's some adapters that fit just to the edge, but not over, so make sure you choose the right adapter and that you think it through, that the adapter can press fully into the cup, because if you don't, you're going to be creating a lot of pressure with that ball joint having nowhere to go. So make sure you choose the right adapters. This one here is pretty straightforward. The C-clamp comes right on top. And I'll rotate it over. Try to get it centered straight on that ball joint. And if you guys are already asking about the four-wheel drive adapter, that's only for install. You don't need that for when you're taking them out. Centered on the ball joint. You see it pop, it jumps down. Now the rest is just getting it out the rest of the way. And then it also will fall out, just like that. Undo your C-clamp, pull out your ball joint, and you have them out. One thing you want to make sure you do, clean up the inside of these surfaces. You're going to see a little bit of rust there. I take some really fine grit sandpaper, just clean it up to get that stuff off of there before you go to install your new ball joints. Reinstall for the ball joints, for your new ball joints. Leave your rubber boot on. The upper ball joint goes through the top. You need to find your correct adapters. And this one here, this is where you're going to use that offset adapter on the bottom. I use a standard one right up top, and that's going to push it right through. So ball joint tools are kind of, they're tough to get installed when you only have two hands. Sometimes these things fall over the place, so just stick with it. But you want this to come in through the bottom. And again, if you look at this allows this ball stud to come through this. So as I press this in, it just continually goes through that so it's not getting hung up on anything. So I don't have it lined up exactly the way I want it now because I got to get my C-clamp on there first. I'm going to get it tightened initially. And again, I like to put the clamp up against something the way I turn, otherwise this thing's going to turn on you anyway. Now I'm going to take a look in line with everything and get everything lined up to where this will push on straight. You do not want to get your ball joints going on at an angle because that creates a lot of problems. So, down backwards. Tighten this up just a little bit. Get it going straight, get it going straight, there we go. Okay, come back to this back side here, and you look from this line right here, you're gonna see how that adapter's angled that way and everything looks pretty straight. I come here, my ball joint's off a little bit, so I'm gonna loosen things up a little bit, and I'm gonna get it straight before I start pressing. I wanna get it as straight as possible, and that's what you gotta do. Once you get that all lined up, it's a simple matter of just starting to tighten it up. Here you're gonna probably need a cheater bar, because that's a lot of force to get this thing started. I'm working way over my head, so I have a ladder if I need it, but I'm gonna start like this. And as you start to tighten this thing, you'll see it start to get into the seat there, and you wanna make sure everything is going straight. In this case, it's going straight in. You just keep going until this flange sits flush across the top of the knuckle. And as you continue to tighten, you're gonna see, or you're gonna feel that resistance go up exponentially, then you know you're seated. Right there, I know I'm seated. I'm gonna use my cheater to get the knuckle back, or the C back off. And that's it for the upper. For the bottom, I use the same two tools. This one comes over the bottom like this, and then I put the offset up here, and it just helps everything line up a little bit better. There's other adapters you may be able to get away with. This is just what works for me. Now in this kit, you're gonna notice if you look up close here, this adapter has a little bit of wiggle room there, so you gotta get it lined up as straight as you can, because it can get off and that'll start setting the ball joint off. So make sure you get that thing centered almost perfectly. Again, I'm looking to make sure everything is straight up and down, and it is, and I'll go ahead and start tightening up, and I'm gonna watch that as it goes. And on this one here, I need to readjust. I'm gonna do that before I start tightening anymore. Otherwise, once you get that thing going, trying to get it back out is a whole different animal. So once you ensure that you're straight, come down, start tightening, and it'll push it straight up and in. Still a little bit to go. One thing I tell you for certainty with ball joints, you want to make sure that your zerks are in all the way, because they kind of put them in finger tight. So go back and make sure that those are in. Grease them. Your bottoms are sealed, your tops are greasable. I would grease them first, wipe off the grease, then put a coat of paint on, put some black paint, primer, whatever. These will rust as they sit. So if you put grease on first, then your zerk, the paint won't stick to the grease, you can wipe it off. Just paint those in, tops there, you'll be good to go.